Chapter 33. As they came closer to the island, the queen pointed to her cave.
Take us there.
You want me to fly inside that huge doorway?
Yes.
The two dragons had already brought every pair of eyeballs on that island to the eerie contrast of the enormity of two dragons, like a double-decker bus flying over the island, defying gravity. Every creature that witnessed the miraculous phenomena marveled at the strength of Obsidian to carry their queen.
I might clip a tree or two.
Obsidian said, his voice tense.
I'll do my best to glide in.
They glided to the doorway, the guards watching with awe, and just as they came to the threshold, Obsidian tucked his wings inward, just enough to avoid the sides of the cave. They came to a rather awkward landing, but neither dragon was hurt. The queen immediately walked toward the inner chambers of the cave.
Follow me,
She commanded. Obsidian's sense of vulnerability became nearly impossible to control as the passageways became thinner, to such a degree he would be unable to turn around should he need to escape.
Where are we going?
There's a place I want you to see.
She remarked over her shoulder, continuing to press into the heart of the cave.
But you will have to hold your breath. Can you do that? Of course. Underwater.
She added. Obsidian could hear her smile in that one word.
Underwater? You seem to have misunderstood me. I don't like the water.
The queen ignored his comments and finally came to an opening, where she stood aside. The passageway opened into a pool of water about 30 meters across. It was a large cavern, and the water looked almost like air. It was so clear. Bioluminescence was all around its edges, which provided a light source. It was a beautiful, mysterious space.
You plan to go in there?
Obsidian asked tentatively.
Yes, and you will grasp my tail and follow me.
She paused.
How long can you hold your breath?
Underwater. I've never tried.
Just normally. How long?
3 minutes, I suppose.
Okay, I think it should work. Let's try.
You think it will work?
Obsidian repeated.
How long will I need to be underwater?
The queen sighed.
2, possibly 3 minutes at most. It really depends on how the currents are moving, and if I can navigate from memory.
If I can hold my breath above water for 3 minutes, how long should I be able to hold my breath underwater?
About the same, I imagine.
The queen said.
I don't know if I can do this.
Obsidian said, slowly backing up.
The thought of suffocating underneath a dark cave really doesn't appeal to me.
Ah, but what's on the other side? It's worth the risk. Trust me.
What is it that you want to show me? Just tell me now, or I refuse to get in that dark, foreboding pool of water.
I want it to be a surprise because, however I describe it, it will not be adequate. The thing itself is literally indescribable.
You have to do better than that if you want me to take this sort of risk.
Your kind used to live there. How's that?
The queen pointed to the water.
Now come on. You have to see this.
The queen slipped into the water with hardly a sound.
Take a few deep breaths and get in. Just hold on to my tail. Don't let go, no matter what. I'll go as fast as I can. If I need to turn around, don't panic. I just got confused. Ready?
Obsidian noticed his arm trembled. It was the first time he could remember ever being this afraid. Very tentatively, he entered the pool of water. It was cool, but not cold. It actually felt quite good to his body. He grabbed the queen's tail that she offered him and held on tightly.
That might be a little too tight,
the queen said. Obsidian released his grip a little bit and took one last breath. As he inhaled, he managed to say one word.
Okay.
The next instant, they dove beneath the dark water. All Obsidian could do was close his eyes in terror and hold his breath in fear. The silence of the place was as overwhelming as its darkness. He had no idea how Elaine could make her way through these underwater tunnels. Suddenly, there was a dim light of hope. He knew they were arriving somewhere that was more spacious and brighter than the tunnels. He relaxed a tiny bit. His lungs were beginning to reflex. They wanted to breathe. He used every bit of his considerable willpower to hold them still. And just when he thought he had lost his power to contain his lungs from breathing water, he could feel an upward climb and a sudden burst above the water. He drew the largest breath he had drawn, like that first breath all newborns take.
We're here.
The Queen said with a cheerful tone. Obsidian opened his eyes, gasping for air. While he composed himself, the Queen led him to the sides of what could only be described as an underwater lake, complete with small islands. He struggled to get out on the land. They were in a huge cavern, large enough for him to comfortably fly around if he so wanted. Everywhere he looked, there were magical sights of beautiful flowers, weathered crags of stone monuments, and trees with huge canopies of butterflies. There were bright-colored animals with fur, the kind he had never seen before.
Is that a unicorn?
He asked.
This is a small world unto itself that holds many of the ancient experiments in creaturehood. This planet was once ruled by the air dragons, and they killed almost all of these creatures. Not on purpose, however. In accidents of that kind, it is all the same. If it were not for the sea dragons who protected them, these creatures would all be extinct on this planet. They live here now, protected.
Obsidian seemed lost in his own reverie as he spun around, taking the whole subterranean world in. On every side were ruins of a lost civilization.
The light, it feels like we're inside a huge, hollowed-out volcano that has a massive skylight at its very top.
Do you like the place?
The Queen casually inquired.
Very much.
Come with me.
She got out of the water and crawled a short distance to what appeared to be a dilapidated statue of some kind.
This is part of your lineage.
It was a stone-carved sculpture of a fierce air dragon in the act of pouncing on an indeterminate prey.
We once lived on this island?
Not only that, this was where your king lived. Do you see that wall over there?
Obsidian followed her pointing wing.
Yes.
That was the king's residence. It's a little disheveled at present, but it could be fixed up.
Fixed up?
Don't you feel a sense of peace here? A sense of destiny? A sense of home?
Obsidian shook his head.
No. My home is far away on a different planet.
That past is gone. For all of us. There is no reason to hold on to it. You are now on this planet. You could be a king here, if I desired it.
Do you desire it?
Obsidian asked, turning his full attention to the Queen.
In your past world, did you sire any children?
3.
So you were mated.
Yes.
And here, do you desire to be mated?
I haven't thought about it until just now, if I'm to be honest.
There is a reason that you and I have been brought to this world. We can bring peace to this world by creating a new race of creatures that can operate in all domains: sea, land, and air. We can rule all domains, and then our offspring can become the new standard bearers for dragons. We can create a new species, uniting the intelligence of the sea dragon with the power of the air dragon.
Obsidian watched her as she spoke, his mind agitated at her words for reasons he couldn't even express or understand.
You have this all figured out. I'm a slow learner, so let me see if I have this right. You want me to rule with you over all creatures of this?
Well, technically,
Aleem interrupted.
I would rule over this planet, and you would be my consort who is aligned with my rule. I envision a matriarchal leadership, while in this case, you would be more of a figurehead, yet still a king nonetheless.
Obsidian moved a bit closer to the queen.
And as your king, you would want to have children. Lots of children, I imagine, so we would have offspring that could develop their own offspring and populate this planet with our kind, our creation. You said you wanted to create a new species. Isn't that dangerous ground to tread?
I am a god after all. This is precisely what gods do. They create new species to explore their world and rule it through their creation. Is that not the case?
I don't pretend to know what gods do. I only know what I do, and I cannot imagine siring a new species. Who knows how they would turn out? I am a deeply flawed creature. I have emotions that blind me at times to any form of rationality.
Our children will be fine. They will have the best of my genetics and your genetics. They will be a species of demigods, and they will rule this planet forever.
Obsidian shook his head in disbelief.
I am truly lost in this conversation. This is a beautiful place, no doubt, and the creatures here they're amazing, but I can't imagine being a king here and siring children with you. I just can't.
It is because you are loyal to your first mate, isn't it? And you think you will return soon. Just pop back in and everything is where you left it.
It's possible,
Obsidian replied.
No, it isn't. And here's why.
The queen said with confidence brimming in her words.
That intelligence that fuels the universes of all space-time, all rungs of the cosmic ladder, it placed us here. It did so for a reason, and that reason is either to begin a war, or it is to live here in this beautiful world and rule this planet, peacefully, intelligently, start a family, and see what happens.
How do you know this intelligence, as you put it, won't simply plop us back to our previous lives at any moment it desires? Who says that what we call intelligence is the same kind of intelligence as the intelligence of the cosmic ladder? We cannot know what this intelligence will do. It is entirely unpredictable.
For you it is. For me, it is not.
How do you know for sure?
Obsidian asked, his tone pressing and intense.
Because we are here. Look around. What do you see?
The queen's wings unfurled as she spoke.
A perfect mate for you, a perfect kingdom for you, a perfect use of your talents and abilities. Now, if that doesn't sound like an intelligent repositioning of a life, what is? Do you really think returning to your previous life of being a simple air dragon with 3 offspring is a better use of your life, your abilities, your genetics? Do you?
Obsidian, visibly perplexed, growled deep in his belly as he paced in front of the statue of his supposed ancestors.
If I do this, will we avoid war?
Yes, of course.
The queen assured.
I will even assent to having Soen as an advisor, and Alter and Oriel as my personal attendants. The human, I'm not sure of his value, but we could find a place for him. Perhaps he could be a good laborer. We will need those in order to rebuild our palace.
I would make Joe my personal attendant.
Very well. It sounds like we have an agreement then. The war shall pass into peace before it is even started. And you and I, we will be mated, and I will announce all of this to my subjects tonight. I will need you by my side when I make this announcement. But for now, you should return to your fellow travelers and inform them of our mutual decision.
The queen waved at a gnome that was hiding behind a strange bush of orange and yellow berries.
And you'll be happy to know that you can fly out of here. You don't need to swim.
She gestured toward the large opening far above them.
I'm sure it will accommodate even your massive wingspan.
Obsidian glanced at the hole in the ceiling of the huge cavern, where a waterfall cascaded to the lake below. It must have been more than 300 meters above them.
Tell me something. Why didn't we just fly in?
I wanted to see if you would follow me, even into danger. It was my test of your courage and loyalty.
The queen smiled.
You passed. Had we flown in, it would have been much less convincing.
Obsidian ceased pacing and fixed his gaze on the queen.
You should know that every act of courage or display of loyalty I've made was because I wanted to stop a war. It was not done to appease you, and it certainly wasn't done out of love or admiration for you.
He paused, letting his words hang in the air with deliberate weight.
And you should also know
Obsidian continued.
that as king I will have my opinions, and sometimes they will diverge from your own. I will not be a puppet or a passive consort of your queenship, so I will be your mate and produce offspring for the sake of averting war. But I will also have opinions and perspectives that will need to be heard and in some cases, even adopted.
Yes, 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 of course. From time to time, I'm sure you will have a good idea or insight, and of course I would listen to every one of them. Of course I would do that.
The queen paused and moved closer to Obsidian until only a small distance separated their heads.
As for love and admiration, I share your sense of lack in these areas. But in time, we may find a way to have one, or even both of those qualities. Do you agree that it's possible?
Obsidian scratched his shoulder nervously and let out a long sigh.
It's possible, though I would suggest you reform your perspective to include the possibility that you are fallible, that you have a weakness in your bold belief that you are a god. If you were a god, would you wage war?
Is there a higher being on this planet that you know of?
The queen asked, brushing aside his question. Obsidian shook his head.
I don't know what constitutes a higher being. You are certainly the most formidable being I have thus far come across, either on this planet or my previous. But formidable and higher are not always the same. In fact, they could be opposite definitions.
Are you suggesting I am a monster?
The queen's tone turned suddenly intense. Obsidian lowered his eyes.
No, I'm suggesting that it is possible that you are not the highest being on this planet despite your unique powers and intelligence. The highest being upon a planet must be the one who carries love the easiest and allows it to flow through them without direction or even modification of any kind. It simply flows through them unconditionally. I have not seen evidence from you that you are in possession of this capability.
Well, that is because you have only seen me in juxtaposition to werewolves, the very creatures that want to imprison us on this island, to keep us from what they mistakenly consider their land. How can I be kind in their midst?
Well, that is the unconditional part.
And that part is precisely what is taken advantage of and misused. In the case of werewolves, I cannot grant them unconditional love or admiration. They would abuse it if I did. They would see weakness where there is none. They would play me for a fool.
Speaking of werewolves,
Obsidian interjected.
how do they derive any benefit from our peaceful coupling as king and queen?
They will be amply represented by you, of course.
The queen ventured.
They will have to make concessions about the land. However, without war, their energies can be put into building their homes and villages, educating their children, caring for their elderly, things like that. So, giving up land should be the least of their worries, and if they need hunting rights, we can be generous and grant them.
Well, I didn't expect to hear those words from you. You sound like you have a whole new perspective on life.
The queen smiled, pointing to the hole in the ceiling.
Go on now. Tell your friends the good news, and tell them they are all invited to live here in this magical place. I will need to speak with my commanders, but I will wait for you here so we can make our announcement. Okay.
Obsidian nodded. She touched her nose to his, and he could feel her electric impulse travel through his heart. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. And the sudden rapture he felt was something he could not control, or possibly would not control. A few moments later, he composed himself, turned, unfolded his wings, jumped into the air, and flew to the circle of light high above him. As he came to the edge of his subterranean world and the world outside, His eyes trembled as they adjusted to the blinding light. And then he did what he had to do, what he knew was wrong in so many ways, but a giant hand seemed to grip his body, turning him around, diving him back into the subterranean world again. It was the closest thing he had ever felt to being possessed.